What's up, everybody? It's Joey Joint here with Joint Perspectives here. I'm doing this episode from my truck on my lunch break. I just want to go ahead and just touch on something that has been sitting with me here. I seen this thing on Twitter. Okay, and it says, if I can figure out how to put this up on there, that's what I'm gonna try to do. But work with me here. It says this guy named Bill Mayer or something. Says high Chicago crime rate isn't talked about enough. Why are you killing each other? He said. Um, and I just want to touch on that a little bit, and because you know, I know like a lot of Chicanos growing up and stuff, they were always like talking about how we shouldn't be killing each other. We should be uniting against the common enemy in reality of it, right? And I think people get confused on who the common enemy is because society dictates there's other common enemies that you may not realize or that you may not comprehend. So like my uncle always taught me growing up and stuff, like, never kill your own people. Another one I was always taught, never sell drugs to your own people, things like that, because you don't want to kill your own people, And I always thought that was a crazy concept, right? I mean, it really is if you think about it, But it's not in reality of it. Because just like how the United States, for their military, their people, their army, they'll do whatever it takes, right? Well, some cultures are the same way, especially back in the day where there was segregation very big. That's a huge aspect on it. I watched that Dear Mama Tupac segment, just one episode so far. I want to watch the other one tonight, but this it was crazy to me on how he really just he wanted to show people a different view on how he always talks about in his songs, right, like equality, and how he can't see a trace of it in the society that we live in, and he's 100% right, because there's people out there that naturally have a better hand, is a good way of putting it, than what some people may be able to even work their whole life to try to get, right? And it's no fault to the person, but they should still be aware on the benefits they have from it. And I think, part of what my podcast, what I want it to be is showing on different perspectives in life that people who live differently can understand the way other people live also, and almost create more of an appreciation for themselves, right? A huge thing for me also, where it was like not just creating that appreciation, but coming together as a people. Me growing up, like my family, we were always like very tight. I mean, like my family grew up like, I mean, a lot of them still live in the same apartment buildings in Milton Avenue. Some of them left, some of them, have passed away. But I was younger. I remember, gosh, it was everybody. My uncle, every time we'd go out, he'd always like to go to the liquor store, right? He'd get himself, his drink and his a scratch off, and I'd always go with him. And but before we go, he always taught me, you go around and you ask your tias and tios and ask them if they need anything. Because if they need something, you got to be able to get it for them, so they don't have to make an extra trip since you're going anyways. It's helping out. So we'd go, right? He'd pick me up when we lived in this apartment. He'd be over here. He'd come over here, pick me up. He'd ask my grandma if she needed anything. Then he'd go across the just a little doorway there to the next apartment building, and it'd be my aunt, and she'd ask her if she needed anything. Then he'd go back there to ask my great grandma if she needed anything, and if anybody needed anything, he'd get it, right? No questions asked, because that's how I've always been taught what family does, right? But it's a huge concept on where people don't necessarily realize how grateful they are. I love that about my family. When we moved out here, that's what I think broke me the most, was not being able to do the things I was taught growing up around my family, because I didn't have my grandma out here. I didn't have my grandpa out here. I didn't have cousins out here. I had one aunt and one set of cousins, and they were all cool and all, and we've had our disagreements. It's life, whatever. But it was never like that. And I think that's one thing that some of these kids out there on these streets are searching for. They were taught certain ways and they get ripped from a community or from their certain life, and things have to change rapidly and they have to kind of develop actively. And sometimes that's very hard to do. A lot of people tell me a lot, like, oh, you seem older than what you are, and da 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 da. And like I tell people too, I went through a lot of different stuff in my life to make me realize things, to understand the life that I was given. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't a perfect thing, but I am grateful for every moment of it, because my life has taught me a lot of stuff, and I would never ever ever I would never ever 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 change it for anything. I want to develop better as I grow, and I want to be able to show people the difference. And that was one thing about Tupac. He never kept quiet about the injustices of society, and that's a huge thing that I really want to, I don't want to say want to do, but it's a huge thing I stand for, and I don't want to be quiet about, and but I want to do it in a different manner. He did it with a lot of anger and aggression, and I get it, I because that's how I was for a while. And the more I've been growing, I've been learning these things, that anger may not be the best solution, and it's okay. There's different ways. We got to learn by trial and error. And I believe giving people a different perspective can help them understand a lot more about not just themselves, but about the world, and about achieving yourself and your goals, and understanding how maybe other people work, so that you can help each other to achieve those goals. um, so definitely I recommend watching Dear Mama. If you haven't, I'm a huge Tupac fan. Obviously I got him tatted on me. um, so I was very nervous about it at first, because I'm always like, yeah, none of these were out when, none of these stories that they were talking about were out when they were trying to figure it out, or when he was out and about. And it changes perspectives for things. So but no matter what, go check it out. Thanks for listening. Kind of a little bit of a rant, but it's kind of my perspective on things. um, this is Joey Joint with Joint Perspectives. Once again, hit that subscribe button, hit that like. Much appreciated.